أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome to the Imam Al-Askari Islamic Center, and as always it's an honor, a privilege and a pleasure to host you here this evening. And we gather this evening under some very difficult and very trying circumstances and do our best to honor the birth anniversary of our 11th Holy Imam, Imam Hassan Al-Askari alayhi salam, and we offer our congratulations to the Imam of our time, Imam Mahdi Ajjalallah Farajah Sharif, with the warmest of our salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Inshallah, as we do with every program, we begin with recitation of the Holy Quran, followed by ziyarat, and this evening we have dear brother Ali Mohi to recite Quran from Surah Yasin, and then continue with ziyarat Ali Yasin as well. Please welcome him with your warmest salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم. تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون. لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون. إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون. وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون. وسواء عليهم أنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون. إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم. إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين. واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون. إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون. قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أأتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالعرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون صدق الله العلي العظيم صل على محمد وآل محمد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سلام على آل ياسين. السلام عليك يا داعي الله ورباني آياته. السلام عليك يا باب الله وديان دينه. السلام عليك يا خليفة الله وناصر حقه. السلام عليك يا حجة الله ودليل إرادته. السلام عليك يا تالي كتاب الله وترجمانه. السلام عليك في آناء ليلك وأطراف نهارك. السلام عليك يا بقية الله في أرضه. السلام عليك يا ميثاق الله الذي أخذه ووكده. السلام عليك يا وعد الله الذي ضمنه. السلام عليك أيها العلم المنصوب والعلم المصبوب والغوث والرحمة الواسعة وعدا غير مكذوب. السلام عليك حين تقوم. السلام عليك حين تكون. السلام عليك حين تقرأ وتبين. السلام عليك حين تصلي وتقنت. السلام عليك حين تركع وتسجد. السلام عليك حين تهلل وتكبر. السلام عليك حين تحمد وتستغفر. السلام عليك حين تصبح وتمسي. السلام عليك في الليل إذا يغشى والنهار إذا تجلى. السلام عليك أيها الإمام المامون. السلام عليك أيها المقدم المامون. السلام عليك بجوامع السلام. أشهدك يا مولاي أني أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأن محمدًا عبده ورسوله لا حبيب إلا هو وأهله. وأشهدك يا مولاي أن عليًا أمير المؤمنين حجته والحسن حجته والحسين حجته وعلي بن الحسين حجته ومحمد بن علي حجته وجعفر بن محمد حجته وموسى بن جعفر حجته وعلي بن موسى حجته ومحمد بن علي حجته وعلي بن محمد حجته والحسن بن علي حجته. وأشهد أنك حجة الله أنتم الأول والآخر وأن رجعتكم حق لا ريب فيها يوم لا ينفع نفسا إيمانها لم تكن آمنت من قبل أو كسبت في إيمانها خيرا. وأن الموت حق وأن ناكرا ونكيرا حق. وأشهد أن النشر حق والبعث حق وأن الصراط حق والمرصاد حق والميزان حق والحشر حق والحساب حق والجنة والنار حق والوعد والوعيد بهما حق. يا مولاي شقي من خالفكم وسعد من أطاعكم فاشهد على ما أشهدتك عليه وأنا ولي لك بريء من عدوك فالحق ما رضيتموه والباطل ما استختموه والمعروف ما أمرتم به والمنكر ما نهيتم عنه، فنفسي مؤمنة بالله وحده لا شريك له وبرسوله وبأمير المؤمنين وبكم يا مولاي أولكم وآخركم، ونصرتي معدة لكم ومودتي خالصة لكم. آمين آمين. صلى على محمد وآل محمد.
Thank you very much, Brother Ali. As always, a beautiful recitation, and really sincerely appreciate that you make the effort to come out here. Although, honestly, you should be thanking the Imam Al-Askari Islamic Center for giving you the opportunity to recite in the beautiful manner that you do, and to please the ears and of everybody here and the hearts of the Ahlul Bayt, inshallah. Let's reward him with the reward of a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Ahsan, thank you very much. A few quick announcements, inshallah, and then we'll continue with the main program this evening. The first thing that let's make do all the housekeeping stuff first, and then we can get into the real, more detailed announcements. We have our weekly programs include Tuesday evening, we have a whole series of classes running, and we're running Dua Tawassul as well. On Thursday evening, we have the return of Tafsir of the Holy Quran, followed by Dua Kumail. Due to recent events, inshallah, we'll continue to recite Dua Joshan Saghir after the Tafsir. So, inshallah, we'll start with Maghrib and Isha prayer, then the Tafsir session, which goes for about 20 or 30 minutes, and it's a really beautiful focus on specific areas of the Holy Quran by our dear Sheikh Dehnawi, and then followed by recitation of Dua Joshan Saghir. If you haven't recited the dua before, I really encourage you all and myself to look at the dua in your own time, even if it's small pieces of small portions of it. It is immensely powerful in the way that we address. When we're making the dua, we address ourselves and we address Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and recognize some of His capabilities. Without getting into a whole lecture, I'll leave it at that. But certainly do your best to attend or even recite. And inshallah, we'll also do our best to live stream the Dua Joshan on Thursday evenings for as long as we hold that part of the program, inshallah. So, and that definitely is for asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us and to assist us and to take control of all of the matters for everything that's happening around the world at the moment, inshallah. Then on Fridays, Jummah prayer, of course, in the afternoon, and our Friday main evening program, with a few adjustments here and there, depending on the major occasions, such as the very soon to be coming narrations of Fatimiyya. Stay tuned for all of those updates and information. Inshallah, we'll share all of that with you in due course as well. Saturday afternoons, we have class for the children, and I believe that tomorrow there will be a slight change to the classes. I'm just waiting on confirmation of that. As soon as I have that, inshallah, we'll update you. I believe we should have some classes for kids tonight as well. If somebody can please double check, maybe Brother Mehdad, sorry, I'm picking on you a lot this evening. If you can just check, please, we'll get all the kids into class and get all of that happening as well. Now, as you would have seen, tonight is a celebration night, or rather, it's a celebration that we would take great pride in holding under normal circumstances. And the Ahlul Bayt have taught us that to be joyous in our joy and to grieve in our grief. In the circumstances that we have around the world at the moment, it is a little bit difficult to take joy and to take pleasure, even with the grandeur of this occasion of the birth anniversary of our 11th Holy Imam, the father of our 12th Holy Imam, for whom we wait so eagerly to return and to rectify all of the wrongs that are currently occurring in the world. It's a very difficult thing to hold a very joyous occasion and to hold a celebration. And so you would have seen that especially in our advertising and in some of the decorating around the center, we have done our best to scale it back, but to also honor the occasion itself. And of course, the reason for scaling our celebration or our event back is in light of the extremely difficult circumstances, especially in the Middle East, in Palestine, that have been developing and brewing and are very unfortunately, very sadly worsening over the last couple of weeks. It is a very difficult thing, a very difficult topic to talk about. There are so many aspects to it. It's a very nuanced discussion, but it does come down to a few simple, I hope simple things, and forgive me if I seem to oversimplify it. Currently, the situation is that there are atrocities being committed. The who and the why and the what, I think, is a secondary issue to the fact that people who didn't ask for anything, who are not part or involved as combatants in a conflict, are suffering. They're losing their lives over just having been born or displaced into a particular region of the world. Now, people are losing their lives on all sides of the issue. Some might say that this is an Israel-Palestine war. Others say this is an Israel-Gaza war. Others will say this is a Zionist and Hamas, and so on and so on. All of those titles and phrases really, at the end of the day, don't mean a lot when what we see coming out of reports, if you can find accurate reporting from that region, is a slew of humans, a slew of your brothers and sisters in faith or in humanity who are dying as a result of this conflict, of this escalating conflict. With that said, that can often lead people to raise their emotions and to become very emotive and to speak and behave and act in a very aggravated manner as a result of it. And by rights, you have every right to be upset with it, to be angry about what's happening and the responses that we're seeing to what's happening. That in itself is something to be very angry about to begin with. How the rest of the world is responding to a situation that has been brewing for 60 years, if not more. And that brings us to today and a little bit into tomorrow as well. The way that, inshallah, all of us at the Imam Al-Askari Islamic Center and the broader community, being Muslim or Shia or Sydney-siders or from New South Wales or from Australia, the best way that we've learnt to approach these sorts of issues and topics and subjects is to very clearly and to very loudly voice your opinion and your concern and your dissatisfaction and your anger in the most eloquent way you possibly can. For some of us, that means to write a letter to your local MP. For others, it means to go and sit in your councillor's office and say, hey, I'm a constituent. What are you doing about this issue? For others, it means to stand with a placard at a protest and peacefully say, I don't agree with what this government is doing and what this government is supporting and what issues we're not addressing as a people. For different people, they will take different avenues. But the one thing that I do humbly request is that whatever it is that you feel compelled to do it in a manner that brings good repute onto yourself and to the cause. Because at the end of the day, your anger or my emotion or my upset is not the cause. The cause is the plight of those people who are being oppressed and are being slaughtered. And we must stand up for that more than anything else. Not how we want to be seen. I stood there and I yelled at, no, brother, that's fine. But the point that you may have made is that there are angry people. Not that there are people who are protesting, those people who are dying somewhere across on the other side of the planet, which is still very important to them. We feel so strongly about this. Ahlul Bayt, especially Imam Hussein, has taught us one very, very important and single thing, is that to stand with the oppressed and to stand against the oppressor, whoever that might be. The oppressed doesn't matter. They can be a Muslim like you and I. They can be of any other faith in any other part of the world. It's our duty and our obligation to stand with them regardless of who they are or what they believe or so on and so on. In this particular instance, especially in this case, we're standing with those people in Palestine who are being absolutely massacred. And I don't think anybody can really challenge the numbers that are coming out from that region. I believe it's something, and this is not about more of them and less of them, and it's not about that at all. It's purely to highlight the issue. That there are, as of today, that there are somewhere around 3,000 Palestinian people, civilians who have been unnecessarily and unjustly murdered. By whom and by what is a separate discussion that I leave aside. And it is for those people who are currently under siege, who have no electricity, food, water, anything coming into the country, that we're standing for. Now, short of giving an entire lecture about this, and I certainly don't mean to come up here and to lecture anybody about this issue, I do want to raise a couple of points, and then inshallah we'll move on to the main program, the main lecture for this evening. One of those points is that the power of propaganda, regardless of where it comes from, can really have a huge impact on the credibility of your argument or your position or even your belief or even upon onto yourself. So my request is that wherever you get information from, do your best to verify that information. Do your best to verify, I saw this video, okay, as it has turned out even recently, that video was from a computer game. I saw this happening and my cousin said that, okay, no problem. I believe your cousin, but can we check? This report said that X, Y, or Z happened. Okay, no problem. Let's go and find out. Let's go and make sure before we start sending everything out and getting people riled up for the wrong reasons on any side of this discussion or argument. And that leads me to the next point, that each of us, many of us, have several different social media accounts for different purposes on different platforms and so on and so on. Once you have that verified information, do your best to educate those people who also might agree with you on this issue, but also those people who might not know anything about the issue, who might also disagree with you on those issues, so that the information gets out there. It's fair enough to come into an echo chamber and preach to the choir, and I apologize for using those euphemisms, but to come into a place and to say something to people who already agree with you, for them to only say, yes, we agree with you, no problem, that's fantastic. But talk to people who disagree, talk to people who don't know. Do your best to educate them so that they can become aware and they have the opportunity then to also make their voice heard and for them to take their own stand against the things that are being done wrong, that are being the crimes that are being perpetuated against people who do not deserve it in any way, shape, or form. Lastly is exercise your Australian legal rights. Most of the people here are citizens. If you are not, you are a permanent resident. If you are not, then inshallah you're on the way to either of those two stages of your residency in this country. Exercise your Australian legal rights. You have a right to access to your local, state, and federal parliamentarians. You have a right for your voice to be heard by the Prime Minister and the Cabinet and every other person in this country. Exercise that right. Do it in the most beneficial and eloquent way that works with how you work. Whether it is to write a letter, whether it is to lodge a phone call, whether it is to go and sit in their office and say, no, I need to talk about this issue. This is important to me. Whether it is to peacefully go and stand at a protest and say, with these other thousands of people, I don't agree with what's going on. This has to change. Whatever it might be, do it in the best way possible. If you do decide to do any of these actions, and inshallah you will select some or all or whatever of these actions suit the way that you act and behave and feel, do it by wearing your Muslim attire. And I take these words from Sheikh Mansour, and I thank him very much for some of these talking points. Do it with wearing your Muslim attire. What does that mean? That means not only your physical attire, be well presented so you can be well received, but also make sure that your behavior and your speech and your attitude is in line with Muslim expectations, with the expectations and the examples that have been set by our beautiful and holy Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. They are the prime examples of how we should conduct ourselves in these sorts of circumstances. There is a time to raise your voice, and there is a time to speak calmly but eloquently and drive your point home. And inshallah, we have the wisdom, inshallah, at the right time to be able to make those decisions. But remember to wear your Muslim attire. Secondly, don't act on your emotion. This is a very, very emotive subject, just like the issues that we've seen, especially in the last 20 or 25 years. Let's go back even 30 years, going back to the first Iraq war, then the second Iraq war, then the invasion of Afghanistan. Now we've got Syria, and then we've got so on and so on and so on. And during all of this conflict, the Palestine issue has continued for several generations now. Don't act on emotion. Be emotional enough to take action, but take the action that is suitable and present your point in the best way possible so that the point itself is the thing that drives change. And let that, inshallah, be a positive change. And of course, all of these points are things I address myself first and foremost, and these are suggestions and inshallah some some things to ponder and consider for our wider audience, yourselves, those who are watching online at home and everywhere else, inshallah. We will continue to do whatever it is we can as a center and as a community and as an organization in light of this plight, and with whatever developments we have and whatever programs we're holding, we will do our best to, of course, keep everyone informed with what's happening. And if there are any questions or comments, or if you have any suggestions on things that we may address or do differently, or perhaps we've missed, please come and talk to us. Let's discuss things, and inshallah we can find the best way forward. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now, with that, I do want to invite our dear Sheikh for tonight's program and tonight's main lecture. Earlier this week we had a chat with Sheikh, and we were discussing with him, Sheikh, in light of what's going on, how do we hold the program and we don't ignore what's going on in the rest of the world, but we still have an opportunity to honor this event, this occasion as well. And Sheikh's suggestion was that let's look at the subject of humanity and its rights, which is a very, very important topic, especially today, especially tonight, especially with, if you picked up your phone right now, and please don't, if you looked at the news of what's happening in these places that I've mentioned already, the number one thing that comes up is, where is the humanity of what's happening, and what are the rights of humanity overall? With that little introduction, and with three of your warmest salawat, please welcome Sheikh Muhammad Mahdi. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
الله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بفضل الله، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الحمد لله والحمد حقه كما يستحقه حمدا كثيرا. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك. اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله، اللهم لعنهم جميعا. ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله أجمعين محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين، واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. قال الله العظيم في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولقد كرمنا بني آدم وحملناهم في البر والبحر ورزقناهم من الطيبات وفضلناهم على كثير مما خلقنا تفضيلا. And we have certainly honored the children of Adam and carried them on the land and sea and provided for them of the good things and preferred them over much of what we have created with a definite preference. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. What is wrong with the world? Why is human life so cheap? Why are the self-righteous nations funding and arming modern day marauders to pillage and murder innocent civilians, while at the same time they show leniency towards child sex offenders? How do you put this into the balance. And these systems that regulate the world governments, they operate using certain philosophies and thoughts in order to govern them in what they consider to be humane, or what is worthy of of humanity. Now, if you are looking at these systems that they use, that they consider to be humane, and these are the results, something's wrong with the systems. So when you look at humanity and the rights of humans, generally we look at, there's many systems, but the main systems that exist in the world are two systems, and then we have Islam. The two systems that exist that people look in order to understand what is humane or what is correct for humanity and what they consider to be human rights. One is the libertarian system, which is a system that says humans are like nature ordained them to be. In other words, you are what you decide you want to be. For example, one of the philosophers, Immanuel Kant, said that the human being should be treated as the end, not as the means. That they're the objective. Whatever the human wants, they're the objective. They're like basically what satisfies them and makes them happy is what is meant to be of utmost importance. And all rules are pertaining to the human and to the actual individual. So that's the liberals' way of thinking. It's the individual that is the most important. Now, because they say that humans are born free, they're intended to be free and free to make their own decisions. And this is the liberals' way of looking at, when I say liberals, I don't mean the liberal government. We're talking about the libertarian movement. Okay. So they look at that we may behave as we wish as long as we do not harm others. That's one system. So one system we're talking about, the liberal system, talks about basically the individual is the one that all laws are based about. All rights are catering for the individual, for the person. The other one that came about is the socialist system, which was originally written up by Karl Marx. This system is, you could say, the opposite, because it doesn't recognize the individual at all. And it rejects the idea that you're free as long as you don't harm another. And they consider this to be selfish, and this is what Karl Marx saw. And while the liberals were championing for democracy and capitalism and saying that ownership or possession is your greatest right, it's pretty much what capitalism is. It's about the individual prosperity. The Marxist thought or the socialist thought said, hold on, this doesn't help the whole. This is not going to help the whole. It only helps who? The wealthy. Now this we got the movement, we the 99%. Pretty much 1% of the world controls the world. This is the problem with capitalism. Now, the problem is that Karl Marx saw and pushed the socialist movement was that only the rich can own. Because you think about it, how many people, to yourselves, you don't put up your hands, because there's not going to be that many of you, how many people actually own their own home? When I say own, they own it. They don't have a mortgage, they actually own their own home. You find it's a very small percentage. Because the ones that own one home, they own 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's the way it works. So Karl Marx said this system doesn't work. So they saw the crux or the pivotal point of the system is what benefits society. See, one caters for the individual, the other caters for society. But the problem with both, they don't look at the rights, the liberals don't look at the rights of society and the community as a whole, and the socialists don't look at the rights of the individual. And this is the problem. And this is where Islam comes in. But the problem with Islam and Muslims, we have a really bad habit of playing block shots. You see in the interviews, whenever a Muslim's being interviewed, automatically the Muslim starts off in a defensive position. You know, rather than make any offensive strokes. It's like, you know, you're always playing, if you're playing a game of tennis, you're always receiving. You're never serving. You're always receiving the serve and you're returning the serve, and the other guy comes into comes at the net and they're volleying everything. You got nothing to do except save yourself every time. They'll make you run to the right of the court, they'll make you run to the left of the court. This is the way the Muslim has always been. You know, they'll come in, why your religion has why do you have polygamy? Why do you have hijab? Why do you have jihad? Why do you have this? Why do you have that? You know, why do you guys pray on a stone? Even within the Muslims, you have this problem. I'll even ask you questions like that. Why do you do taqiyya? Why do you do latum? Why do you do this? Why do you do that? Now, why is it we've always been on this back foot, and why is it that the Western ideology was the one that wrote about human rights, even though before us, child rights, even though we've always had this within our religion, what the rights of humans are? The question is, what is it that our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, what does Islam say about the rights of human beings? We said the authority for the liberal is the nature and the individual. And for the Marxist or the socialist said the authority is the community. So what is the authority in Islam? We go back to what is the origin of our existence. Where did we all come from? How were we all created? Who created us? And that authority is God, the creator of mankind. And I need to remember the fact that, and this is a fundamental thing, تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير. Allah owns everything. This is what you need to begin with. Allah owns the heavens, Allah owns the earth, Allah owns the animals, Allah owns all the flora, Allah owns you and me. Everything I have or I possess is not my possession. So we begin with Islam, the ultimate authority. The focal point in Islam is who? Is God. God is the focal point, not the individual, not society. So because God is the focal point, we see what God wants. Why? Because God is not in need. He doesn't need from you and I. So what is it that Allah requires? Allah gave me delegation over my body. He gave me delegation over my wealth. He gave me delegation over my children. It's not an absolute authority that I have. At any time, Allah can remove this. I don't have that freedom to do what I want with what I've been given. Allah says, هو الذي جعلكم خلائف في الأرض. Allah Azza wa Jal basically made us successors upon the earth. That when we say successors, khala'if, meaning that you own something and then someone succeeds you, they own it. It's not like you take something or you take it with you when you die. It just all vaporizes with you when you leave. No, it just passes on. Everything you have right now passes on to the next people. And it's all borrowed. And it's all being used. The next person uses it. Then the person after that uses it. So it all passes on from one to the other. So we've been delegated to rule on this earth. So the first fundamental when it comes to human rights is that the authority is the creator of the heavens and earth. That's the first thing. So we need to understand that the authority, the focal point is God. It's not the individual, it's not society. I need to look at what God, Allah Azza wa Jal wants. Okay. See, when we read the Charter of Rights or anything to do with human rights, it's different to the way it's written in Islam. I mentioned the introductory verse that I said, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي Adam. Allah says that we have, when we say karamna, that we honored the children of Adam. So the second fundamental point that we need to look at is that you are dignified and you are human, and you have the dignity of a human being. Is when? Why? Because you are the children of Adam. This is where we got our dignity from. Because you are the children of Adam, you have been dignified through this. This is where your dignity is. And this is why Allah Azza wa Jal has made everything subservient and working for you. So what rights do I have? This is the point we're going to get to. What rights do I have as a human being? In Islam, we don't have what we call huquq on their own. We don't have rights on their own. We have things that are what we call something that's dururi, which means something that is essential or necessary. What do I mean the difference when I say a haq and something that's dururi? What do I mean when I say something is essential and something is a right? What's the difference when I mention this? What's the difference between the two? Okay, when I say it's like having a right and a requirement. So some things are a requirement. That means they are there and you have no rights here. Because when I say something's my right, what can I do? I can forego this right. If I have a right to something, you can say, for example, your right is to have a comfortable bed. You say, listen, I want to sleep on the floor. But there are things that you can't forego. For example, Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran, Man qatala nafsan bighayri nafs. If someone kills a soul or takes a soul, any soul, for other than a soul, means yani, if it's not an eye for an eye or whatever, Allah says it is as if he has killed all people. And if he saves a soul, it is as if he has saved all people. So that means I don't have a right when it comes to my soul. This is what we mean. I can't just commit suicide. I don't have that right. I can't say, look, I'm alive, I don't want to live anymore. I'm going to go to one of these countries that has euthanasia and terminate myself. Allah says you can't do that. This isn't your right. This is a requirement. Your life is your requirement. You're required to live. You're required to be here. This is essential. So this is what we mean. There's a difference when it comes to what's rights and what our requirement is. One of the rights that we have is, for example, the right of maintenance that a husband has to provide for his wife. This day and age, women don't ask for this, right? Instead, women say, I'm going to work. They want to work, I can provide, and I can help in the house. In the rule is the woman's supposed to be provided with maintenance and provision, with everything. A woman has to get provision to what's it called? To be at home, look after the kids. Even to breastfeed, a woman has to be paid stipends to breastfeed. And these are her rights. Okay, so some women say, I forgo these rights. I don't want these rights. This is what we're talking about when it comes to rights, or the rights of maintenance, or of this kind. She can forgo that right. And this is where the liberals made a difference between right and requirement when it comes to morality. From fornication all the way to gender selection. It's always open to interpretation. So where do we mean by this right? That they've allowed everything. Like not only can I make choices on what's mine, but I can make choices on what's not mine. You know how we have if someone gets married, no one owns the other person. There's no ownership. One of the things I always mention about the changing of surnames, this is a Jewish custom. A Jewish custom, the woman used to change her surname because she was being sold from her father to her husband. So it was like they were dealing with livestock. And this is the way that they were treating them, like animals. Like you sell, and that's why in our culture, in our religion, we don't have this, but we adopted it from our culture. People say, how don't we have it? I say, well, when we mention al-Banin, we don't say Fatima al-Hashimiyya. We say Fatima bint Huzam al-Kilabiyya. We still mention her by the family she came from. We still adopt the surname of the family we came from. We don't use the surname of the spouse. The woman doesn't use this. This is a cultural thing that was adopted from the Jewish custom and not ours. Now let's take a look at where right comes in. There's a story where a woman has been presented to the second Caliph, Umar ibn al-Khattab. They've brought her into his court and they've said that this woman is an adulteress. And she's an adulteress that is carrying child from her adultery. Now, Umar ibn al-Khattab orders for the had to be brought upon her. When we say had, and we mention the had, we don't mean necessarily stoning. It could be had even where there is lashing, because it doesn't mention. But because of the remainder of the tradition, it could be that the situation is where it was stoning. It was a capital punishment. You know what I mean? You know, if someone goes, oh my God, you know, they're stoning people. Yeah, they stone people if they commit adultery. But if you're sick and go to hospital, you can have the whole hospital be toppled upon your head. That's acceptable by Western ideology. They all accept that, but they don't accept when it comes to capital punishment. But collective punishment's okay. So anyway, when she's brought in before Omar says that the had is upon her. She has to be punished. So they come and tell Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. He comes and says, إن كان لك سبيل عليها فليس لك سبيل على ما في بطنها. He says, if you have a right to enact the punishment upon her, you have no right to enact the punishment upon what's in her womb. And look what's rampant? Abortion. You know, people abort now, you know, they abort it as if they're exiting a game that they're playing. It's so normal now. People call you and go, oh, can I do this? Can I do that? They do not realize you're actually killing someone, but, you know, they make it so that it's normal. The abundance of abortion these days, the infanticide is so commonplace. And that's pretty much, you know why it makes it so easy? I want to explain why. You know a lot of people that commit murder today. Like, for example, the people that fly jet planes and bomb, or the people that fly drones. You know why it's so easy for them to do it? Because it's not hand-to-hand. You're not actually stabbing someone and seeing the reaction. See, a lot of these people that flew the drones, the unmanned drones, during Barack Obama's presidency, they were flying the drones from Washington, D.C. Did you know that? That they were actually controlling these drones. It's as if they're playing COD. You know, they didn't even feel that they're actually doing anything. That we'll just fly this drone, it kills people. They don't have that feeling where they actually commit. So these people, the same thing, they go to the doctor, they take the pill, and, you know, it's none of my business. This is the way it's going to be done. They don't feel the fact that they've terminated a child, because there's no proximity there. Now, our rights of this infant, the rights even of this infant, are within Islam to be protected. Everything there is a right in coming to protecting it. The way that allows people to abort is very important. Do you know the method? How do you think they made it so normal to abort children? What was the method that they actually used? The first thing is they tell you it's what? It's not a baby. So in order to make it easy, the first thing they do is they objectify it. They dehumanize it. Once I dehumanize something, it makes it easy. And this is why today, if you look, How is it that they are so able to sanction genocide and be able to spread it? How do they do it? How have they been able to do this? Before we look at the dehumanizing factor, which is important, the first thing they do is they put pressure on everybody to conform. If you look at the defender that was playing for Bayern Munich, decided to speak out, suspended. Josh Adokar put a flag, the Aboriginal flag, because they're indigenous people that have had their land usurped and were almost wiped out in a similar fashion. And the Palestinian flag, what did they do to Josh Adokar? He got kicked out of the Australian team, and he's fighting to keep his position in the Bulldogs team because of putting those two flags next to each other. Okay? Because, God forbid, you can't say they're both oppressed. And everyone's afraid. That's why you see a lot of people are afraid to lose their job. So they're pressured into conforming. You could lose your job. There's scathing attacks, slander, alienation. When I say alienation, they kick you out of the circle. You don't exist anymore. It's a bit like when they wanted to make the group Hezbollah into a terrorist organization. They wanted to make them a terrorist organization. The problem is the Australian government still deals with Lebanon. So the Australian government's associating with terrorism. So you can't have your cake and eat it. It's either it's a terrorist organization or it's not. You can't still deal with the Lebanese government when this terrorist organization, as you call it, is part of this government. It's nonsensical. It makes no sense. So when we're talking about also for you to be able to, we're talking about scathing attacks and slander. I don't know if you remember a guy called Scott Ritter. Now he's active again. He disappeared for a while. See, Scott Ritter was one of the UN weapons inspectors back, I'm talking over 20 years ago, who went to Iraq, and he was a US weapons, a former Marine as well. He said that there are no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. And if you go for a war, you're going on false pretenses. You know what they did to Scott Ritter? They accused him of going on the internet and trying to hook himself up with an underage girl. And then he disappeared. Because that's what they'll do. They'll do some massive scandal and destroy your reputation. So he disappeared. And had it been something real, it would have stuck. You would have went to jail. He disappeared, then he's back on now. He's starting to talk again. He's active again. That's what they do. They will destroy your reputation at all costs. The other reason where people will line up with them is opportunism. Greed. People want money. People want favor. A lot of people, you see them, they'll come out now and talk, so they can be accepted. Another thing is hatred. There are Islamophobes, people that hate, or at the time of the Nazi Germany, there was anti-Semites. There were people that hated Jews. So they jumped on the bandwagon. They said, good, Jews are getting killed, I'm going to join this bandwagon because I hate them anyway. And today, same thing. Do people say, oh, Muslims are getting killed? Well, I hate Muslims, so I'm going to join this too. This is what happens. You open doorways for these. Now, in many places, the persecution of Muslims has occurred for a long time in the backdrop of what? Islamophobia. People always have this thing where they fear an Islamic planet and things going wrong there, where, God forbid, Muslims will be putting Sharia law everywhere. That's the thing that they bring up, even though a lot of the Australian and American and British law is made up of Sharia law. Sharia law means law. But, that's the word they like to use. And even on the United States Supreme Court, they mention this. They got an image what they depicting the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to say that their law is based upon Islamic law, Sharia law. So someone should do a protest, pick a fence, picket line outside the Supreme Court for that. Now, there are also the silent ones, and silent ones are usually people that are part of the process, the people that can make an action, people who can turn off the petrol with just a button and everything just stops. Those people, the silent ones that allow all this to take place. Now, let's go back, because you'll see the similarities of what happens today to what happened in 1933 in Nazi Germany. The first thing that the Nazis would do is they would refer to the Jews as what? They would call them Untermenschen, which means what? Subhumans or underhumans. Notice the similarities? Today they say they are, about the Palestinians, they say they are human animals. So this is what they did. And then they would call them rats. You know, if you ever see, and when you think about, there was a dialogue in one of, I think it was Quentin Tarantino's movie, where he actually mentions this. He says, you know, rat is a varmint, it spreads poison, it's not like a squirrel. The way they labeled them as rats, so people see them as worthless. Just like right now, you watch that when people are being slaughtered, that's okay. They're subhuman, and everyone's reporting they're subhuman, and that's okay, and that's why it's been spreading, so it makes it easy. If I don't do this, it becomes very difficult for you to be able to kill another human being or justify killing another human being. So if I make the other person, like, you know, in Queensland, if I went to Queensland right now and started squashing cane toads, would anyone object? Would you get arrested for it? Did you know they get cane toads and they throw them in front of trucks, you know that? And they get them squashed and everyone's okay with it, you know that? You're allowed to do whatever you want with a cane toad, because a cane toad is a pest. If someone went and honestly, would you ever see people stand up and stop pest control and tell them, what are you doing killing all these cockroaches and killing all these insects? No one objects to this. And this was the objective of the Nazis, to do this, so no one would object when they were killing the Jews. It would be absolutely normal. I mentioned in my lecture earlier, I said it was so bad that no one boycotted the 1936 Berlin Olympics. No one boycotted. This is 3 years in where the Jews are being persecuted. And every country, because the Americans actually like Adolf Hitler, every country attended the Berlin Olympics, and they were normal about it. They were normal about attending this country that was a fascist state, a racist state. So don't blame them when they find it normal when they support Israel. Because, you know, the Third Reich was Nazi Germany. This is the Fourth Reich. It's just another rising of the same form of fascism and apartheid and murder and dehumanization of a massive population in order to achieve an absolute genocide and remove them all. In fact, this hasn't been any different to previous wars. If you look at the trophies that the Americans, even Australian soldiers, remember the Australian soldier that took home the prosthetic limb of the Afghani soldier, and they would ridicule them and mock them, and even in Iraq, that they had dehumanized them. And that's why you had a lot of winter soldiers, those that refused to continue fighting. Why? Because they said, we came, because when they get trained to be brought into the war, they're told that these people want you dead, these people, you know, this is what, remember how many times they tried to vilify the Palestinians, where they would bring one of the videos where they brought this elderly woman, and they wanted to interview her to make her say all the worst things, and she said the guy entered the house, and he said what? He said to her that I'm a Muslim, don't be afraid. He said, I'm a Muslim, don't be afraid. Nothing's going to happen to you. And then she said, he asked me if he could take one of the bananas in the kitchen. Like, seriously. He's asking her to take a banana in the kitchen. Whereas when they enter the house, we saw Jacob in his famous video, if I don't steal it, somebody else is going to steal it. You know? Didn't ask to take the banana, he just took the house. So we see the contrast between them. The reason that this exists, and you see all this, is a very important point. See, we always get the people that pop up and go, why did God create hell, and what is the purpose of hell? Allah says in the Quran, لِيُمِيزْ الْخَبِيثَ مِنَ الطَّيِّبِ. This is the first verse I want to look at. لِيَهْلِكَ مَنْ هَلَكَ عَنْ بَيِّنَ وَيَحْيَ مَنْ حَيَّ عَنْ بَيِّنَ. The first one, the reason is Allah does all these tests, and they're so difficult to even witness, so Allah can show the difference between the wicked and the good. You can see it, can't you? You see when you see the most disgusting people get on TV, wipe them all, clean them out, get rid of them, give them all you got, and you can see the vengeance and the hatred. You see all the poison that drips from their tongues. And the other verse, Allah says, the ones that perish into the fire of hell, they perish an bayyina, which means that it's evident, full evidence. No one enters hell without clear evidence, because you can see it's obvious what they're doing. Everyone can see it's clear as day. It's clear as day. When one of the interviews, although it has some expletives in it, was a very good interview, the one with Bassem Youssef, which I thought was the best interview I've seen in the whole campaign, where he actually says something to him. He says to him, your objective is to bomb all of Gaza to what? To get rid of Hamas. He said, is to get rid of Hamas? He said, yes. He said, then why are you bombing the West Bank when there's no Hamas? Why do you kill in the West Bank when there's no Hamas? And then Piers Morgan said, I don't have to answer your questions. That's it. I said, that's enough. That answer is going to be great on the Day of Judgment, because I'm going to be sitting there, legs crossed, eating popcorn while I watch Piers Morgan get cross-examined over that. This is exactly what's going to happen. See these moments? You're going to relive these moments. See all these moments you see? You're going to relive them. And that's why when Sa'id ibn Jubair al-Hamadani, from Hamadan, Sa'id ibn Jubair, when he was brought before Al-Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi, and Al-Hajjaj wanted to kill him. He wanted to kill him because he asked him. It's beautiful. It's actually not, I don't know how I am going. I'm going all right with time. I know. All right. Sa'id ibn Jubair al-Hamadani, when he's brought before Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi, this is why he killed him. He asked him, what is your opinion of, he said, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, all the caliphs. He goes, what's your opinion of them? He said, are they in paradise or are they in the fire of hell? So Sa'id ibn Jubair said, I have not been into paradise to see if they're in paradise, and I have not been into the fire of hell to see if they're in the fire of hell. So then, however he asked him, he said, which one is the best out of them? He says, the one that pleased his God the most. He said, and which one of them pleased their God the most? He says, though I did not ask my God to know which one pleased him the most. So the whole time, all these questions are being answered in this manner. And eventually, Hajjaj couldn't handle him anymore. So he said to him, this is a very important point to know your stance here. He said to him, I'm going to kill you, but I'm going to give you the option of how you want to die. You choose how you want to die and I'll kill you. Sa'id says, no, you choose how you want to die, then kill me. Because on the Day of Judgment, I kill you the way you kill me. So you choose. See this stance that Sa'id took. After Al-Hajjaj killed him, they used to hear Al-Hajjaj in his bed screaming, Qatalani Sa'id. They'd run up, he was sick, he was going mad. Every night he would say, Sa'id is entering my room to kill me. Until he died. And one of his friends saw him in a dream, and he said, every single person I killed in the dunya, this is before the Day of Judgment, this is now, after they died, every single person I killed me, like I killed them, except Sa'id. He killed me 1,000 times. Allah allowed him to kill him 1,000 times. That means kill him, bring him back to life. See all these people that enjoin in these, all these people that enact these killings, all these people that support these killings, all these people that accept these killings are all together. This is the thing that you need to understand. This is what this world is. When we say, لَعَنَ اللَّهُ مَنْ قَتَلَكَ وَلَعَنَ اللَّهُ مَنْ ظَلَمَكَ وَلَعَنَ اللَّهُ أُمَّةً سَمِعَتْ بِذَلِكَ فَرَضِيَتْ بِهِ. In Islam, you can't be indifferent. If a crime takes place, you know, us Muslims, I'll tell you right now, us Muslims, we sit there and we condemned what Hitler did. There's no Muslim that accepts what Hitler did. There's no Muslim that accepts the murder. I've never seen a Muslim that accepts the murder that Putin or Zelensky are both doing. No one condemns it. We don't condemn any innocent killings. And anyone that's been killed innocently, we do not accept it. That's how a Muslim is. Where is the enemies of God? They not only accept the killings of innocents, they sanction it, they support it, and they try and convince you it's justified. What we say is a saying, you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. You can try and make something look different, but it's not going to change. It is the way that it is. And you cannot change it in the slightest. Unfortunately, tonight we were supposed to commemorate and celebrate the birth of Imam Al-Askari alayhi salam. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, we, on the 8th of Rabi'a, we mentioned his martyrdom, we spoke about his life. And Rabi'a al-Awwal, 8th of Rabi'a al-Thani, we celebrate his birth. But the moment that we're in right now, honestly, is reminiscent for me of 20 years ago during the Iraq War. Inshallah, this doesn't go to the same magnitude that killed more than 1.3 million Iraqis were massacred by these same forces. And the people that didn't know that, I think, inshallah, this doesn't go to that magnitude. And you're worried about one hospital. I don't know how many hospitals they destroyed in the Iraq War. They absolutely demolished Iraq, these same forces. Inshallah, this doesn't go in this way. May Allah Azza wa Jal hasten the reappearance of our master Al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan al-Mahdi arwahuna fidah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma kun liwaliyika al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan. صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات وإلى أرواح موتانا وموتاكم ولقضاء الحوائج وقبول الأعمال وشفاء المرضى وغفران الذنوب وتعجيل الفرج وحسن العاقبة. رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلوات.